Talk.
And welcome to Let 'em Talk. I'm Paul DiRienzo. Got a great show in store for you tonight. Our guest is Dennis Levy. Hi, Dennis. How you doing?
How you doing, Paul?
Oh, good to see you. Great to have you on the show. I've been really looking forward to this show. Dennis is a candidate for Sheldon Silver's old spot, the Assembly District, the 64th Assembly District in Lower Manhattan.
In Lower Manhattan.
Right, and he had that job for what, 20, 30 years?
Forever, it seems like.
Right, yeah, definitely, as long as I've been there. And he was just recently convicted of fraud, extortion, bribery, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so therefore, he was no longer Speaker of the House, Speaker of the Assembly, and now he's no longer an Assembly representative, and that means there's going to be a special election.
And it's really turning out to be probably the most interesting election in the state, because you have a Republican, Independent, Working Party. Myself, I'm with the Green Party, and you also have a candidate there that is actually one that was hand-picked by Silver's machine. So in some ways, you still have his presence that is going to be in this election.
Right, so you're saying the Democratic candidate, Ann Cancel, right?
Exactly.
She is a member of the same political club.
Absolutely.
Out of the, I believe, the Baruch houses or Grand Street House? Grand Street houses?
Yes, I think so, yeah.
In that region, in the area along Grand Street, really in Lower Manhattan.
Manhattan, exactly.
And that was always the Silver base of support.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, she's got it. But, you know, and with my campaign, one of the things that I found out about Silver's is that he was selective in terms of which communities benefited from the power he had in Albany. So what you have in our Lower East Side neighborhood is some areas that didn't get anything, didn't get any of the benefits of having a speaker in the Assembly in Albany. We were neglected for some of the communities that got everything that Silver's had to offer. So I want to bring that out. We don't want any parts of Silver to be back representing our community. So that's definitely one thing I want to do. I'm going to win, I feel like.
And the election is in April, right?
It's in April, April the 19th. It's a very short run-up, okay? Right. And I've never run before. I'm an absolute new candidate, okay?
Right. So, well, I just as a host of this show, I just want to say that any other candidates for this office want to get in touch with me via this show, I'd be happy to give them equal time to speak as well. We're not, you know, I do it, we're old friends, and I do support his candidacy, and I will vote for you.
Thank you.
Aside from all of those things, of course, Ms. Cancel and the Republican candidate, whoever that is, and the Working Family Party's candidate, and any other candidate are welcome to come on the show.
Well, can I say something about that for the audience, just so they know that we are organizing a debate with the Voters League, the Women's League of Voters. It's organizing it, and at this point, tentatively, it's going to be at Pace. And we're going to have all the candidates there, and I'm certainly going to let you know so that in the future, because it's going to be in the next couple of weeks we're talking about. So maybe you can tell your audience exactly when it's going to be.
So to see a debate, a real debate.
Well,
all these other debates we've been watching have very little to do with our everyday lives.
Exactly.
But this one might.
It will. This will talk about, for one thing, which I like to bring back out to the public's mind. We actually had a bill that would deal with the traffic congestion in the Lower East Side, and it's a problem in Manhattan, especially in terms of kids.
All politics are local?
All politics are local. And so, you know, Silver's is the one that blocked it when actually Mayor, it wasn't de Blasio, but Bloomberg supported congestion pricing, is what they called it, and then turned around and him and Schumer, I understand, wasn't in favor of it.
Really?
So, yeah, and so, you know, we're going to bring that back again. We would like to have clean neighborhoods if possible.
Right. So, let's talk about your favorite subject. which is, of course, you hold two hats. Yes. And you wear a nice hat. But you hold two hats, and your other hat is New York medical marijuana.
Yes, I'm president of New York State Committee to legalize marijuana. And our mission is to bring legalization of marijuana in New York State. Similar to as they have in Colorado. For those of you that know, Senator Kruger, Liz Kruger has a bill, the Marijuana Regulation Taxation Act, that is currently stalled in Albany, that would bring full legalization of marijuana to New York State. And we see it not just for its medicinal and recreational benefits. This is a way to build jobs and create wealth in our community.
Could I just want to ask the engineer if we could move the camera a little bit so that we could get a more direct-on view while we were both talking. I would like to see a more direct-on view if that's possible. But so medical marijuana, let's talk about it, because part of it is you've announced and people know that for a long time you're HIV positive, right, as well. And as such, this has been an important part of your activism.
Absolutely. I'm an HIV positive grandfather, as a matter of fact. I have a grandson. And, you know, before I was actually involved in actually trying to get marijuana legalized, I ran an HIV and AIDS organization. And a lot of those people that have HIV and AIDS have experiences with marijuana. It helps with their appetite. It helps in pain and attitudes. So I had a direct involvement with marijuana before it became a big thing to talk about getting it legalized. So in New York State, we have already been in contact. I wanted to show you a letter that I have here from the New York State Department of Health.
Okay.
We feel like the process, this was one that was sent to me, and it actually is just excuses. Why they won't let us or give us an understanding of how they selected the 5 organizations that are currently entitled and have license to provide medical marijuana in New York State.
This is very interesting. So let's go back a step or two to understand this and break it down. So Dennis Levy, this is made out to you, New York State Committee to Legalize Marijuana. Now, you had a Freedom of Information Act law request last year in which you asked for following records, copies of the following records, which ask details about how these 5 people
they select them.
Right now, we have medical marijuana in New York State. And it's limited to 5?
Exactly. Five companies were selected. And it's our position that the process, that's how they selected these 5 companies, was corrupt, and it probably had a lot of political influence involved.
Why would that?
There.
Why would marijuana, why would selection
let's start with dollars, okay? It's a billion-dollar industry. And these 5 companies that got the license are heavily involved with certain candidates. They support their candidacies. They, you know, support them financially when they run every year. So it was very important to certain political people in Albany to have those companies that were favorable to them selected. That's what we suspect. Now, we haven't been privy to it.
Well,
but
are these companies that were chosen, or do you have any suspicions about their motivations? Do you think they're going to do the job?
Well, you know, what we are finding out is that it's nowhere near like some of the other medical marijuana programs are being run. It's so restrictive that when you go into some of these places, it's almost like going into a bank's vault.
Right, so we're not talking about the same
cameras.
It's not like California.
No.
It's not like Colorado. It's not a place where they legalized it.
You're not going to come in and see different strains sitting up there and a bud tender sitting there and helping you go do it. No,
did you just say bud tender?
Yeah, that's what it's the official name of people that work in dispensaries.
Well, baristas, could you have a budista?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But anyway, it's a real sterile, high security environment that turns off the people that we've talked to that have gone in there. So immediately
they're trying to keep the illicit nature of it, sort of like this is something that's not for fun.
No, this is not for fun. This is medicine, and as such, you have to be in a sterile hospital type of setting. Okay?
Like the narco closet in a hospital where they have like 6 nurses with keys to get it open, right? And they measure it by a millionth of an inch.
Now you got it. But you know, that's only one part of it, Paul. The other part is, in our opinion, it was done in a way that either intentionally or not was discriminatory. You have one woman, but she came from a family that had already been in construction for years and years, and she just happened to be the one that was in charge now. But you really have no people of color or women that were selected. They were completely just looked over. And so you only have men mainly that are people running the dispensaries. I know dozens of women who would have loved to have set up a dispensary. So we went to the Department of Health. Look, tell us, how did you select them? What kind of system did you use, to select these 5 individuals?
And what do you think? There's no transparency, is what you're saying?
None whatsoever. And they're stalling. I mean, that is the problem. I've gotten 5 other letters from them that keep putting off. Look, we're going to get back to you, Mr. Levy. Well, give us more time.
So they're not really giving you any information?
No information.
They have not responded to any of these points.
They have not responded.
6 points you have here, right? The applications for 5 winning companies, information and documentation setting forth specific details of each company. So that's not available.
No. Well, what they sent us, believe it or not, is samples of other individuals that asked some of the same questions. And I guess they were trying to say, Mr. Levy, this is how we would respond to yours when we get to it.
Okay. The score of each of the 5 winning applicants and how each was evaluated in comparison to losing applicants. 3 criteria used to determine the ability of organizations to produce sufficient quantities of approved medical marijuana products. Criteria used to determine the ability to maintain effective control against diversion of marijuana and medical marijuana. 5 names of lobbying agencies working for each of the 5 winning applicants. And 6 reasons the losing applicants failed to get licenses and score of each one. Right, and so this is the information that you've repeatedly requested, and you have not received an answer.
We have information to believe that our friend, the past Senator D'Almano, was the gatekeeper to a lot of these companies. His lobbying firms were actually working for some of the winning companies that won.
Who is he again?
Al D'Amato.
Oh, Al D'Amato. Former Senator Al D'Amato.
Exactly.
He's still around?
He's still around and has his own lobbying company, and he represented at least half, maybe a little more than half of the 5 that won license. And so that, to us, is an indication that we need to look into this. We need to shine a light on this process and see what exactly took place here.
That's a lot of irony, because I don't know if you remember, but back in the 1980s when he was United States Senator, he and then federal prosecutor Rudy Giuliani and I forget who the 3rd person was, dressed up as like their idea of like some sort of 80s undercover big hair thugs.
One up on the upper,
they look like drug dealing thugs, and they actually like penetrated like a block or something. Where
I remember it like it was yesterday.
And they were actually went in as undercover agents working for the DEA.
At that time, they were against all forms of.
And now the man who stood shoulder to shoulder as a junior DEA agent with Rudy Giuliani is controlling the companies that are allowed these lucrative licenses to manufacture and distribute medical marijuana.
Isn't that ironic? And like I said, it's so ironic until we feel like that by itself is sufficient reason to open it up, the process, to the public. Let us see what's going on.
I think Nancy Reagan would be spinning in her grave.
Oh, no doubt about it. Before we go into the next question, I want to make clear also to your audience, again, about us legalizing it and stating it's an issue that we want to make sure that when we get to legalizing, that we have a part of the bill itself that ensures that we are able to grow our own without any penalties or regulations governing that.
Sure.
So to grow our own is
that
very,
should be allowed,
very
and that's what they do in California, for example.
Absolutely.
Which is not, they probably will this year legalize marijuana, but up till now they've had since 1995. Basically medical decrim.
Exactly.
And people can grow up to a certain number of plants.
Plants right there in their own home. Exactly. Without any regulations or any interference from the law officials. So, yes, we want to make sure that that's in place.
And the state of California has not collapsed into the sea yet.
Yeah, it hasn't. And I think that's something people need to look at. They haven't collapsed and everybody is running wild out there. We now know that these systems, Colorado, I think it's a lot more organized, because a lot of people say to me all the time, and say, you know, when you have people that are fighting and at war with each other, they're usually not smoking marijuana. Marijuana is a substance that it brings about peace and, you know, conjoinity and being able to get along with each other. You won't find too many times people that are fighting that are smoking marijuana. So this is a substance is for peace.
So you would, as a state assembly representative from the Lower East Side, your first session in Albany, what would you do?
Well, my first session up there is to definitely try to find out what is going on with the current bill of Senator Liz Krueger's. Let's get it up. Let's vote on it. Okay?
What's the Liz Krueger bill? Tell us about that.
It's the, like I said, the marijuana regulation taxation bill, and it sets up a system very similar to Colorado. Okay, where you can actually have retail outlets that you can go right in. They have people working in there. You can look at different strains. They will tell you about them, and you can purchase right there. And that allows way more than the 5 here in New York to go into business. And we certainly want that available. So one of my first things in Albany is to go up there and actually say, hey, what's going on here with the marijuana? This is a new multi-billion-dollar industry that would help our state.
So you don't see a downside to pot?
I haven't been able to see a downside. I mean, they've done research into one of the supposed problems with it, and that was that it would get to our youth. And they found out conclusively it's not a gateway drug. Marijuana is not a gateway to heroin or cocaine, so that you don't have to worry about that. Usually most people that smoke marijuana, they begin with it and they usually stay with it. They're actually marijuana smokers throughout their life. So you don't have to worry about that. That's something that anti-marijuana prohibitionists have put out there to make us afraid that, oh, our kids are going to be on heroin and cocaine. No. And secondly, when I get to Albany, I want to see what we can do as a state to influence the federal government in moving marijuana out of a Schedule II, where it's considered a drug as dangerous as heroin and cocaine. Let's agree on what the scientists have found. It's basically harmless.
Schedule 1, which is what marijuana is, equates it to heroin, and not even cocaine is actually Schedule 2.
Exactly.
A doctor can prescribe cocaine. There's plenty of uses that are legal for cocaine. Heroin, there are no uses that are legal. Same with marijuana.
Exactly.
Under federal law. Although millions of people are using marijuana for medical reasons in states where it's legal or decriminalized every day.
Absolutely. And this is inhibiting some states from actually going forward with even the medical marijuana, because the feds themselves still have statutes, or at least in a schedule, that makes it as dangerous as heroin and claims that there's no medicinal benefit. We know that to not be true. I was just reading yesterday of a patient of cancer that actually testified to positive actual withdrawal of the cancer, cancer growing element. Remission, that's the word I'm looking for, yes.
Related to marijuana use.
Marijuana use. So, you know, and look, I'm HIV myself, and I've been HIV since 1992. and I smoke marijuana.
Congratulations for surviving as long and being so healthy and right there.
I like to believe that it had played some part to it. Cannabis played some part. So one of the third things I want to do is have the state to support a clinical trial. And the clinical trial would be to determine if cannabis has any direct effect on HIV and AIDS. Does it actually slow that virus? Does it have any real beneficial effect on it? I think if we found out it did, it would revolutionize the whole treatment of HIV and AIDS in this state. So.
Very interesting. Let's go on because we have a few minutes. I wanted to ask you about the it's not directly related to your candidacy. We'll come back to that. But the fact that the United Nations is going to be opening up the whole issue of drugs in their United Nations General Assembly Special Sessions on Drug, which is happening the same time as your
same day,
right? April 19th.
Yes. This is it's the same time.
It almost should have been April 20th.
It's like 3 days, so it's going to be right during the same thing. Well, you know, in some ways, though, I think that I want people to understand that it's very similar. They're going to be talking about changing the viewpoint from the old war on drugs to one that's more acceptable of where we're at today. Like, for example, with marijuana, its medicinal benefits, the fact that we now know it's basically harmless. It's not going to kill anybody, okay? So that's what they're going to be debating over at the United Nations.
Do you think with all the opposition to marijuana, by now we would have heard about it, right? We never would have forgotten
forget about it.
You know, if somebody had ever died from marijuana.
They would have billboards up all over the place.
Right, and they haven't found that.
No, they haven't found that.
But you're going to be speaking at the, you've already spoken, right?
We're going to be having an outside rally, and a mutual friend of ours has already got a permit. We're going to be promoting it. We're going to let you know. It's going to be a number of activists, marijuana activists, yes, that are going to be speaking right there in front of the United Nations. Okay, to make our positions known to those that are inside, actually struggling with a new global policy for drugs.
And what would you like to see at the global level?
Well, at the global level, I would like to see more, or less rather, law and order approach, okay, like they brought about the war on drugs.
Like in countries in Malaysia where they actually hang people.
Exactly. I'd say move away from that, and let's look at it more from a therapeutic and recreational standpoint. These are substances that probably, I know for a fact, are less harmful than alcohol and tobacco, legal substances that are used around the world. The cannabis has been found to be less harmful. So let's move away from the war on that particular substance and more to accepting it and trying to find ways that it can benefit society and that we can use it.
Dennis Levy, you're a candidate for Sheldon Silver's old spot, Assembly District 64 in Lower East Side, Lower Manhattan. The election is April 19th, special election to fill the seat, vacated when the Assemblyman was, and the former Speaker was convicted of numerous bribery-related charges and conspiracies. And you are running against someone who's trying to hold his torch. And
placeholder.
Right, a placeholder. And you're running as a Greens Party member. And what is it? Why did you choose the Greens Party? Does that have something to do with marijuana?
Well, absolutely. I was actually introduced to the Green Party by a friend of mine, and I found out that they supported legalizing it. They supported Senator Kruger's bill that's in Albany. And not only that, they have some eco-friendly positions that I am in favor of. For example, moving away from some of the gas fuels and
the fracking and things like that.
Fracking and things like that.
Tell me, one of the big issues that the Assembly person might have to face is closing down or leaving open, for that matter, the Indian Point nuclear power plant.
Well, that's an issue that I want to definitely say close it down. And I understand from and talking to friends that are more knowledgeable than me, some people say, if we close it down, we're not going to have a sufficient energy source. Untrue. we have some alternative sources that could come online. It would be right there, ready to go on the grid, and we wouldn't have to use that nuclear energy. I think there has been enough accidents there that we should wake up and smell the coffee before people, thousands of them, are hurt. That's what I think. So let's close it down.
A potential catastrophic disaster.
Exactly. So close it down. I wouldn't even have to debate on it. Close it down, okay? That definitely is high on my agenda.
Right. So it's interesting. Is the green positions include, of course, the greenest of all, legalization of marijuana. Right.
Exactly.
All right, great. So the elections the 16th is a debate you're working on, so that's coming up.
That's coming up.
Possible
Exactly.
debate. Right. So tell us your involvement in politics, Dennis. How did you get involved in all this?
Well, you know, for 30 years, I've always been a community organizer. Not so much like our President Obama, but I actually am a program designer. When people come to me and they say, look, we've got a problem in our community to deal with employment, I've been the one that comes in there and designs an employment program for them. Or let's say it's a housing one. They don't have sufficient housing. I'll identify various resources, set up a program that they can actually have to refer people that need housing to affordable housing. I mean, real affordable housing, not this term they're using out here now to accept people that are making $100,000 a year and saying that's affordable. That's not affordable.
So you like to see construction of really affordable housing?
Yeah, real affordable for what I call poor and working poor. Okay.
What happened to our neighborhood? I mean, the Lower East Side, we were running as one of the worst records in preserving low-income housing.
Well, you know, that's why I want to also ask, and I'm going to be asking that, I think, as soon as tomorrow, for a moratorium on the building of luxury buildings in New York City. I don't think we should have them built anymore until we're able to sit down and come up with a plan that actually provides housing for poor and the working poor in New York City. Once we have a concrete program together, then we can look at some additional luxury buildings that could go up in New York City. Meanwhile, let's stop all building on them.
Okay. And the last, what I wanted to also ask you in the last minute or so is to touch on the Black Lives Matter movement and the struggle against police brutality. I mean, how would you handle the police situation?
Well, you know, that is an issue on my platform, and I used to be a member with Reverend Sharpton, who, you know, a lot of people have different opinions of Al Sharpton, but you can say one thing, that he certainly has been at the front of police brutality issues throughout the city. And strange as it may be, when I was up there, they actually suspended me because they said I was too angry. So I don't know, take that however you want to take it. I certainly.
Who suspended you for being?
Well, the people that run the program up there for Reverend Sheldon. So I left, and I couldn't believe it.
That's
you know, I'm too.
Right. Well, that's actually might recommend you.
In my cap.
Yeah. That recommends you possibly. Here's a person who Reverend Sharpton said was too angry. He's just angry enough.
Exactly. So you know, I definitely want to bring in a residency requirement. I would like to definitely have police that live in the communities they're going to be working in, for one, and probably we need more training. And I think these are things that are on the table now. So when I go to Albany, I would actually just network, identify those other politicians that are supporting these issues and support them also, okay? Because we've been dealing with that for a while in New York.
Okay, well, last 10 seconds. Dennis Levy, thanks a lot for joining us on Let Them Talk.
Anytime.
Good luck in your campaign. April 19th is the election, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you. Bye.
That's it.